First issue I want to discuss is property tax. Now, there was two bills in committee in 2012. HB 1776 was in the House, sponsored by our own Representative Cox, and an SB 1600 in the Senate was introduced by Dave Arnold. That session's over. We got to start over. And both those bills are now going to be, as Jim pointed out, HB 76 and SB 76, and we'll see where we go with those. A little bit of history of how we're getting lured into this every year. Property tax, we start to get excited. I did some history on this, and we go back to 1987, which was the Casey referendum, which was going to convert property tax to wage tax. After that, we got Act 50 in 1998, we got Act 72 in 2005, we got Act 1 in 2006. That's the one that the gambling funds were going to relieve you of your property tax. I guess all of you probably got a check big enough to buy a week's groceries on that one. Then we got HB 1275, which was the School Property Tax Elimination Act, and that was introduced twice by our Sam Rohr, both in 07 and 09. Both died in committees. HB 1600 in 2007, David Levansky's House Finance Committee. As a matter of fact, I testified before that committee, as did many others, and ripped into that, the fallacies of that. It went nowhere. Again, died in committee. We had HB 2230, Seth Grove's property tax reduction bill. Many of us were down at the, I think it was Daniel Boone Middle School, and we kicked butt down there. Another bogus bill that went nowhere and wasn't what we were after. Finally, as we said, 1776 and 1400 came along. And this year, we'll see where we go with the 76s, both the House and the Senate version. And David Ballinger is, I guess, optimistic. He thinks it's going to go somewhere this year. We will see. But my point in all this, they want to argue it's a matter of economics. Both sides of the issue, it's economics. Well, maybe so. But I want to read you a quote from the Pennsylvania Constitution. Article 1, Section 1 states, all men are born equally free and independent and have certain inherent and indefeasible rights, among which are those of enjoying and defending life, liberty, of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property and reputation, and pursuing their happiness. It's pretty clear to me that when you own your property and you have the right to protect it, no government should have the right to take it from you under any circumstance. Further, reading from our founding fathers, John Adams. A defense of the American Constitution in 1787. The moment the idea is admitted that in society that property is not as sacred as the law of God, and that there is not a force of law and public justice to protect it, anarchy and tyranny commence. If thou shalt not covet, and thou shalt not steal, were not commandments of heaven, there must be made inviolable precepts in every society before it can be civilized or made free. Now, my point is this. We've been snookered for 25 years that politicians, they take an oath to defend our rights and our Constitution. Folks, we've been on an expensive ride for 27 years on this. And depending on the year you analyze it, Pennsylvania cost of government is the most expensive government in the nation. We need more than property tax relief. We need government relief. Pennsylvania legislature, the most expensive of 50 states. I did a resolution for another organization in 2008. Statistics at that time, Pennsylvania cost the taxpayers $23 a head just to operate government. Nothing to do with the program. Put that into perspective. New York, $10.82. California, $8.20. Illinois, $5.83. And it goes on. We are more than double the second most expensive government in the nation. It's time that they understand in Harrisburg, it's time they realize it's time to cut back. Second expensive issue, right to work. It was 45 years ago, 1968, I joined the Pennsylvania Right to Work Board. 37 years later, I resigned. I resigned in disappointment, but I also resigned in disgust. That was the year that the good guys, the co-sponsors of Right to Work, were the same ones voted for their midnight pay raise. I couldn't deal with it. If that's the game they want to play, I want out. I want to be an attack dog, and I'm not going to be on a board that was kowtow to these folks. It seems that 45 years later, there's never been a right to work bill on the floor for debate, for vote, for issue. Now, if Michigan can do it, the heart of the automotive industry, Wisconsin can do it, Illinois can do it, and Pennsylvania can do it too. Representative Metcalf introduced HB 50, which was the Right to Work bill in 2012. It died in committee, but he did have hearings. The fact is, I was the only Tea Party representative out of 17 people testifying that testified at those hearings. I don't know where the other Tea Parties are, but and incidentally, we can thank Representative Mark Dillon for getting me to appear there, and we appreciate it. But I'll tell you, during that hearing, I was the last to testify. I was the only one to testify that quoted the Constitution. I'm sure 17 reps are sitting up there, and as I assumed, they just wanted me to shut up so they could go home. But as I said before, if I shut up, I want my wife to have it on my tombstone that he finally shut up, but it took an act of God. If you look at the economics of it all, the 10 best, most economic surviving states in this nation, in spite of where we are all right to work states. The bottom 10, economically, are non-right to work states, and Pennsylvania is among those 10. If we only look at economics, there's a reason we need to pass this. But it's deeper than economics, and that's what I try to point out to them. It's a matter of the Constitution. 1903, Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision, Erdman versus Mitchell, held under the Declaration of Rights of the Constitution of Pennsylvania, the right of a workman to free use of his hands is a right which neither the legislature or a trade union can take from him, and one which is the bound duty of the courts to protect. When was that upheld? When was that overruled? I know of no way it was ever overruled, and when I question politicians, frankly, they don't even know what I'm talking about. Anyway, next came along the Wagner Act, 1935. The Wagner Act provided that states could unionize. Maybe a good thing. I'm sure there's working men that, without a union backing them, they may not be able to survive. That's not my issue. My issue is the right to belong or the right not to belong. The states that have right to work laws, they're not suffering economically, so don't tell me that it sets back the labor, the workforce, because it doesn't. Going back to that Wagner Act, as I said, they proclaim that states must provide union agreements with employers if the union bosses say they want it. I look at the Wagner Act. Now, they claim it was a Commerce Clause allowed them to do this, but nonetheless, the states acquiesce to the federal government. But I contend that the Article 10 of the Constitution, which states that any rights not defined by the federal government are referred to the rights of the states. As far as I'm concerned, states have the right to not enforce the Wagner Act, but they did. After the Wagner Act, 1947, they were going to clean this up and pass the Taft-Hartley Act. Now, the Taft-Hartley also said that if a person does not want to belong to a union, that's his choice, except to the extent that such right may be affected by an agreement regarding membership in the labor organization as a condition of employment. That's catch-22. In other words, he still is forced to belong whether he wants to or not. That's where we find ourselves today. We are seeking a law that all the way back in 1903, it was defined that we had the right, and we're trying to get it back. I don't understand it, folks. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but dang, I can read the Constitution, and I can interpret what it says. The third issue, public employee pensions. And to be specific, it's politicians guaranteed or defined benefit pensions. That's what I'm talking about. Now, the pundits and the advocacy groups all tell us that we need to be concerned that we're looking at $41 billion shortfall in public pensions for public employees and school teachers, which, by the way, works out to an additional $1,000 for every household. So I'd say, folks, if you were smart to start saving your money, because you're going to get it from your school board or from the state. They must make it up. I'm not picking on those folks. They didn't make the law. In fact, they didn't make the 50% increase to their pension in 2001 like the politicians did. My issues with the politicians that make the law. Now, of course, the teachers and public employees reap the benefits, but of course, it's their union dues in the pockets of the politicians that promote their cause. But it's the politician's responsibility to honor the oath and honor the Constitution and do what's right. And that's what we need to have done in 2013. The bottom line of the Constitution, Article 8, Section 2, states, salary and mileage, and no other compensation. Now, the courts upheld it, of course. The courts also upheld COLA. The Constitution also states the salary increase, no salary increase during their term in office. They shouldn't even be getting COLA during their term. But some lawyers write their opinion, paid by the legislator, write the opinion, will argue in the court that it's the right thing to do. The judges are under the same umbrella, the same pension system. They're all biased. As far as I'm concerned, the court should recuse themselves because it's definitely a direct conflict of their interests. It's not my interests they're looking at. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what the court said. I don't care what the politicians said. I don't even care what their lawyers said. It's still my country and it's still my government. My option is the ballot box. And if I got to remove a few people to get my point across that the others catch on, then I guess I'll have to remove a few people. Just for example, Jubilee and Prideville, both Republicans. We had those two folks removed from office some time ago, with two outstanding constitutional conservatives, and Senator Eichelberger and Senator Fulmer. However, they left with their pension package that we're going to pay for the rest of their lives. And according to the Post-Gazette in Harrisburg, Brightfield is going to get $71,700 the rest of his life. Jubileer, $105,100 the rest of his life. I don't get it, folks. Salary and mileage and no other. There's more. Joe Pitts, now a congressman, he's getting $90,867. Armstrong, $79,017. Grant, $60,912, and the list keeps going on and on. It's costing us a fortune. That's why we have $23 a head to pay for government. The pension program is a good bit of it. I don't know about you folks, but I'm not in the compromising mood any longer. I'm not interested in negotiating. They lie, they cheat, they ignore their oath, they ignore the Constitution, both Constitutions, and we spend our time defending those rights they ignore. And it goes all the way back to 1903, as I said earlier. To quote an anonymous, I'm mad as hell, and I ain't going to take it no more. I'm for a general house clean. It means throwing a few good babies out with the bathwater. Sometimes that happens. As far as I'm concerned, if it has to be done, it has to be done. If that's what that takes to get the attention of the rest of them, I'm all for it. I'm sure if we done with you, that the rest will either read their oath, or we'll ask them if they want to take Harold Nadecki's constitutional class. We can assist them that way. Now we'll be networking with Tea parties across the state, and we're going to try to accomplish a few things. We have a unity organization. I think we have 52 groups already, but we, Berks County, are not going to get the attention of the Seth Groves and the like in York, Lancaster, whatever. But that Tea Party chairman should be able to. And we're going to try to network with these folks and tell them that there's a couple of choices here. We either get the Republican to support our views and sign on these bills, or we get the RINOS to change their mind, or we primary them. And if the Democrat is the representative of the area, we get the Tea Party to find a constitutional conservative and run against him. That's basically the plan for 2013, to get these three bills through government. I thank you, and Jim, you can sign your timer now and finish it.